We are live.
Well,
Welcome, everybody.
Well, not really.
I mean, we're alive, but to all you, we're the past.
Should it
Coming
be?
to you from the past.
Wouldn't it be fun to do a live show on Saturday mornings, though?
A live show from the past?
Yeah.
That would be so
No.
hard. But, you know, there have been conversations about conversations that people could have.
Sounds so meta.
Well, you know, Mr. Lopez has
Yeah.
been lighting up the LinkedIn space.
So I watched the first one, and then I got halfway through the second. I think I got right to because my initial thing was, oh, this doesn't seem that disruptive, and I think I started to get right into the part where people started cutting each other off, and I think I can start to see what he was talking about.
You have seen nothing till you get to part 3.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I heard somebody say, yeah, I don't like the coactive coaching. I know other people do it, but I mean, that was in
it's kind of how it went. And then split into 2 camps. There were the people who were the originalists, and then there were the spirit of the law people. So the originalists say the framers of Agile, you know, are 17 revered experts of agility.
Not Paul revered, though.
Something's coming.
Wrote a document that used the word software. So any conversation about Agile that doesn't involve the word software is not Agile. It is something else. So stop calling it Agile. That was their stance. And the other people were saying the Agile camp has grown to encompass other practices, other ways of working, and just focusing on the software seems to be insufficient for success.
See, that's the part right there is, I think, really the only part that I think is the problem. Because I was in agreement with everybody had valid points.
Yeah.
It was like, of course, it depends on where you're standing. Context determines appropriateness. Why are you all in such violent agreement? Can't you just agree?
Well, in part 2, they were in violent agreement until about halfway through. And then we started, he said, well, let me see if I can muddy the waters. And that's when he created the 2 camps. So inadvertently, he created a place in which they could go to 2 sides. Those 2 sides persisted. It's like it attracted moths. So the third group was different people in the conversation. The third conversation at the 56-minute mark.
So we win
into complete
lost.
It went in. Yes, I know. It went into complete meltdown.
So Marcelo would like us to bring several or many of these people in and continue this conversation. But I guess my question. So this is an extension of what you just said, Mike. What would be the point, or what would be the question to answer? Like, what would be the thesis statement to test? Like, what?
Right.
And
at this point, we don't know for sure what Marcelo's motivation is.
Exactly.
Objective's the better thing. I know what his motivation is.
That's also, again, that's also a helpful element to making compelling content, right? You can't let it take over the room, but some amount of drama is useful. Otherwise, it's
sure. Then you've got entertainment. Are you not entertained?
100%.
But it's like there is a part of this where I think Marcelo is actually wrong. And his method of going about it is only making it worse.
So let me ask you this. Do you think Marcelo has a point that has not been perceived, or because I remember we talked to Marcelo about this a couple of times, and I remember his point as being, if Agile coaches just talk to clients about their feelings, that's kind of useless. Like, you need to be able to, it's not that the professional coaching is useless. It's that I guess what I'm saying is I don't understand what the marketing. There's no such thing as an Agile coach. I don't really know what he means by that.
So you didn't get that out of the first recording where we came into that conversation. He goes, at first I was against this conversation too, just based on the hashtag. And then I talked with Marcelo and I realized what he was saying. And I think the gist of the conversation, at least from Wee's perspective, is that the understanding of what an Agile coach is or does has grown so vastly that it now encompasses everything. And if you're everything,
Oh.
you're nothing.
Okay. I see.
But unfortunately, you can't reflect that in a hashtag. And the hashtag that he chose was, I feel, is quite incendiary.
Yeah. And pointlessly incendiary. All he does is attract people who are pissed off about their point.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And so it almost becomes like a clickbait.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like
He may as well
here's
be
something that
hashtag
works.
you're doing it wrong. I mean,
Right.
it's just
Epistemologically, it's almost like it's easier to blow stuff up than it is to build it, right?
yeah.
So he's building a fire. He's bringing more heat than light. It would be another way to say it.
That
Could be.
would be.
And it's not that he I ended up writing to him and saying, look, you started this mess. Now it's your responsibility to make it better.
He's calling the
Like
fire
it's
department.
and not to make, but to make some good come of it. Right. You opened the door. You did it in a way that you specifically said, I'm going to cause people to get reactive in this.
In his mind, he must think that there's going to be some resolution or some progress that comes out of it, right?
Does
that must
he?
be what he's thinking.
I don't
Does he?
see that. I don't know. I don't, like, you would think he would have something he's trying to.
Well, so this is why I raise that, because like if he's acting in good faith and there could be a productive conversation, then I would say, sure, let's do it. If it's just going to be a wrestling match, that's a different, maybe we still want to wrestle, but like, let's be clear about if it's a wrestling match or if we really want clarity out of this.
What is the thing about getting into the wrestling match with a pig?
Don't ever do it, because you just get dirty and the pig likes it. And
the pig likes
there's
it. You
no
just get
value.
dirty.
Yeah. You have
Yeah.
other stuff to do. You don't want to get pig juice on you. So should we do this or not?
Well, I want to know what his point is. What is it that he wants to get to?
Do you think he's going to answer that question in a way that we can?
Well, maybe that's a prerequisite to the holding the conversation, right? Is what's
we have
the
to
point?
have a point of clarity before we proceed.
Yeah, our goal. If he's already gotten plenty of random conversation.
Okay, who would you guys want to have on the panel if we decided to do it?
We could consider some of the people from the original conversation, but we'd have to balance it.
I'd like to cap it at 3, like maybe 6 would be a good size, because it felt like some of these.
We can only do 5, right? There's only 8 streams allowed.
There's a technical limitation of 8 total, right?
Yeah. So again, if there's a point, if there's some good to come out of this, and my stance would be, you kicked over a hornet's nest with this. It's causing controversy, not necessarily. But not what's a good word that starts with C that means making things come together? Coalition,
comedy, comity, or I'll give you
comedy,
the original.
Sure, yeah, comedy, sure.
Yeah, I think they're both pronounced comedy.
They're
homonyms.
But I have to say it the other way because I pronounce things the way they're spelled.
Homonyms are fun. See,
it helps me in my head.
Hand
me that kniffy.
In my mind, this thing feels settled already, right? It's like there's some cases where professional coaching is responsible.
Yes,
agile coaches.
I think there is a settled neutral stance.
A measurable outcome for the org, otherwise it's not agile coaching. You might have professional coaching as a valuable tool with the right preparation and understanding, right? But like, there's really, like, it feels like everything's been dug up, all the treasure's been dug up out of this land already, and so. Yeah. Is there?
And so I don't know. Do you think Marcelo's doing this because agile coaching has somehow been devalued in the last year or undervalued? And his presumption is that's because of the misunderstanding?
See, that's an interesting, and if that's the thread we want to pull on, I think there might be some value there, because I do think that the perception, the people who would spend the money for agile coaching have stopped doing it to some extent. And maybe the reason in their mind is the lack of clarity around what the hell are they actually buying? How should it work? And how would I measure that? Right. Maybe that's a useful.
Maybe
that's.
Or do we even know why? I mean, because
totally.
I know that we tend to, throw about all this conjecture about, well, we know we know the fact if the market
Mhm.
is not good. And we're trying to draw a correlation. Well, it's because there's this devaluation of coaching talent. Maybe it has nothing to do with that.
I bet the
Maybe
best
it has to
coaches are
do
as
with,
busy as they ever been, right? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
no, maybe. I mean, that's the problem. There's so many maybes. Can we get
Yeah.
to some facts and
Yeah.
then maybe draw some conclusions based on all the facts instead of, oh, I think it's this because the market sucks. Well,
Yeah.
no, that's not
Like I think I
scientific.
know what it is, so I'm trying to fuel my confirmation bias.
Thank you. You said it much better than I did. Yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to mansplain that to you. Sorry, I just
Jeff spits out his coffee.
and to my mind, that means that organization needs both of them.
Right.
Not
It's always a both and in different
Yeah,
proportions. And any coach should be able to see that.
yeah, should be right. So if you want to specialize, if you want to be a specialist in a field, that means you need to be part of a larger team that fills in the gaps that you don't fill.
You need to know when your specialty is not the thing indicated.
Yeah. And so maybe those kinds of coaches are better for large scale, big organizational shifts because you couldn't have one person do all that anyway. There's just too many moving parts. So
Right.
divide and conquer, send the specialist to where the specialization is needed at the time and do the whole thing. Whereas I think this is akin to, the analogy of a team that you start cross training, develop T-shaped skills, you create generalists. The generalists can work in a tighter, smaller group. So maybe the people who have all the skills would be able to work in the small, medium-sized companies as the only source. Right. And the workload isn't such that they would be overwhelmed anyway. So having all the tools at their disposal can be helpful.
Yep.
And to still recognize that there may be times when you wander off the technicolor into an area that you're not an expert on, and the expert to be an expert. No, wait. There's ethics. The ethical consideration of a coach is that you're honest about your limitations.
Oh, yeah.
Is that you don't go in and say, I can talk you through this thing I've never seen, right? Just because you don't ever want to show weakness or show that you're unvaluable in an area.
But that would be unprofessional.
That is
It's-
unprofessional, and that is part of the Agile Alliance Agile Coach Code of Ethics. It's one of the topics in there. And I think it's a good one. I think you shouldn't go out. I mean, it's one thing for us to say, hey, look, we read Steve Tendon's book and there's some really interesting stuff in there about throughput accounting that we might want to do. We've read Daniel's book, and the throughput accounting stuff seems like that would be a better fit for the stuff we're doing. But we can't say we're a CPA and we can tell you how to restructure your finance organization to do that instead.
Or let me walk you through test-driven development as somebody who hasn't opened an editor for 10 years.
Right. It's like, that's the thing. It's like, I can speak to what test-driven development does now, but I haven't done it in a while.
If you need a dojo, get a technical coach.
Exactly. So, I mean, there is a, as you evolve through what you do, the same as an executive in an organization that has climbed up through the executive, through the power structure, probably shouldn't be writing code anymore. That's been too long since they did that.
Although, would you like a counterpoint?
Sure. Please.
So there's a guy, God, who was it? Stanley McChrystal. So I'm trying to tie this together. The guy who does the what is his name? That guy, Polish guy, Mick Kirsten.
Oh,
yeah,
the project to product guy.
Mm-hmm.
He studied McChrystal's. Basically, he came up with characteristics of really effective leaders.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things he found was most effective leaders are the ones who can do the high level stuff, but who are also, and Gene Kim talks about this as well. They talk about them as being technically super capable.
So they can dig into the weeds if they need to and understand, but so you're not able to blow smoke at them. However, they operate at an executive function.
Yes. Yes, they can dive down into the weeds and say, this guy who was on this technical task team. So the context for McChrystal was like Iraq mid-2000s, right? He said, okay, you guy running a helicopter crew, I'm going to delegate to you, but if I need to understand, oh, yes, it does make sense to use this type of whatever in this tactical situation. Whereas a guy who didn't have that technical ability, like wouldn't necessarily. And so the power of this is the speed of trust, right? I'm going to delegate this capsule to you and you run as fast as you can. And so it's basically having more span of expertise and control that he or she can use to guide the whole thing. So it's again, it's not that
I accept your counterpoint.
Yeah.
And as the yes, and it is. And I did make a much broader statement than was helpful in that moment.
Well, I'm not saying you're wrong. I think it's another example of context determines appropriateness, right?
There's a set of commercials going on right now in which they're talking about how to learn something you have to forget something else, and then all the examples are actors or something that have forgotten important.
Yeah.
Like Jennifer Aniston forgets what the Rachel haircut looks like and sees somebody with it and goes, "Oh, that's very cute." It's, well, you ought to think it's cute. It's the Rachel. It's like, who's that? Is that your name?
Totally.
Anyway, point being, so I was kind of alluding to that. So, as you get further up the ladder, you have to let something go, and maybe it's some of the more technical stuff.
Well, I think that's true sometimes. Yeah. But yeah.
So is the core of the problem that people are pawning themselves off as something that they're not?
I think that may be part of the problem. That would be the hypothesis that I think might be driving some of what we're dealing with.
Okay. Is that what Marcelo is concerned about?
I don't know what Marcelo's concerns are. If Marcelo seems to think that once you start getting him, it's time to change what he's saying.
He likes to be elusive.
I want to keep this off balance. Like, okay.
Maybe he views himself as So my youngest dog is a bit of a catalyst, right? My two dogs are older. And when Theo came along, he was a bundle of energy and joy. Like, he's the one who starts it up. He's barking. He's a little bit irritating, but the dogs end up playing and get more value out of the time, right? As a result of his rabble rousing. I wonder if
rabble rousing. Now there's a word.
Exactly. I wonder if that's a bit of an analogy for what
Marcelo is the young rabble rouser.
He wants to come in and bark and get stuff, because maybe the specific point he's making isn't as important as getting the conversation going, getting the party started.
So there probably is value in firming up the understanding of what Agile coaches do.
Yes.
Right. And when you would want one and how you could benefit from having one.
And what you would know, what you would look at to make sure that it's working.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that there are specializations possible. Those specializations can be brought to bear in specific situations and can have tremendous results. You can get great results in your organization. The thing is that you may not know at the time that you engaged in this endeavor all the areas that you may need to touch. Right? So you may come right in and say, I believe we need our development teams to work more efficiently. So I'm going to get this kind of Agile coach in here to help because they promised me twice the work in half the time, or whatever the sales pitch the person's doing. And if that person goes in there and helps the teams do that, then congratulations, you won.
Yeah.
But odds are, in the course of doing that, they're going to uncover other things that fall outside of that realm. And I mean, I think we all got our start in the same place. We all came from the Scrum Master role first.
Actually,
right? So
I
we were
started as a product owner first, but
okay,
whatever.
but still in the camp with the teams, we were still dealing with the teams, and
On
so
an
we were
effective
there.
cross-functional agile team, so we know
Yeah.
what it good looks like. Yeah,
Exactly. And so we all have had a hand in helping teams navigate that space. And I know for me, the frustration came when I realized that that was insufficient. Like I could tune the team forever, but the organization could still kill them.
right.
And so and so the thing that is in my gut is bothering me about this conversation is that the goal is to create boxes and put coaches in the boxes. At least that's the way the debaters seem to be trying to frame it. And I don't like boxes. I don't want to be in one. I don't want to make people get in them. Right. The thing that always bugged me about being on a coaching thing is you're a team coach. You can only talk about the team. I said, okay, did that. That's not where your problem is right now. I'd like to help you with the problem.
Maybe there's an analogy to medicine here, right?
Okay.
Jeff, you want to pick it up?
So all while we've been having this discussion, I've been thinking in the back of my mind of this exact analogy. Medicine is a very large field, and it's all about, supposedly helping the health, promoting the health of the patient.
Yeah.
And there are many ways to get at that. And at one time, doctors were this person that had a little black bag and they came to your house. Well, they don't do that anymore. It's evolved and it's expanded to the point where there's a recognition that health isn't just, giving you a Band-Aid or giving you some iodine or whatever it is. It's really more about the whole thing. And you've got people that specialize in bones. You got, orthopedics. You've got people that specialize in lungs, pulmonary. I wouldn't go to a pulmonologist and say, man, my hip is bothering me. Well, if I did, he'd say,
you might, but
you should also see a neurologist because that's not what that does, sir.
Right. Yeah. So it is a big tent, and it can encompass multiple disciplines. Whether you say somebody should address the human aspect versus the technical aspect is, it misses the point. The objective is to help the patient, in this case, our customers, achieve a particular goal, a particular objective, and that will likely involve multiple elements. I might not have expertise in the technical side. I do, but it's old. So do I, and to your point earlier, I haven't done test-driven development in 15 years, 10 years. So I'm not going to pawn myself off as that. I work more upstream though. But there's a place for all of us under this tent.
So in the medical analogy, it's assumed that whether you need a cardiologist or a neurologist or whateverologist, you also have a GP, right? You have a person who is in charge of the whole picture, and the value proposition for that person is to increase your overall health, right? Lifespan and hopefully health span, right? You live longer and you have a better life. And he or she can delegate out trouble with your heart to somebody, to the cardiologist, but hopefully, and this is actually not working super great. We don't have to necessarily go there, but the reason it's helpful, I think, is the entry point into the whole, what is the overall context that governs the whole reason you do this in the first place. In medicine, it's the health and the lifespan and the health span of the person. In the organizational thing, it should be the business outcome from the organization's, the ultimate, his goal, I would say, what's the goal, right?
Right.
Maximizing this, but until you know the goal, you don't know if creating the healthiest spleen possible for a dead guy, right,
Right.
If you don't
Well,
have the goal of the health or the goal of the health of the organization, you don't have the context to even understand where to specialize and where to.
Okay.
Anyway.
So if we stick with the analogy, and I like the analogy, if we stick with it, we go, do you go to a podiatrist and ask about chest pains? Right? You don't. If the
Right.
podiatrist should by all rights say, well, look, dude, if it ain't your feet, you need to get a different doctor.
An ethical specialist will
The
refer you.
GP can look at the symptoms and go, okay, I'm thinking you might need to go to a cardiologist just let's rule this out. Let's do some blood tests. Let's see what the pain is. But if you need heart surgery, I can't do the heart surgery for you, but I can send you to the specialist. And maybe, and so even a general practitioner can still have specialization on top of that. Right.
Yes. Yeah.
Just
That's
because
true.
they're a generalist, general internist or whatever, does not mean that is the only thing they are. Right.
Yeah.
And even a specialist. Let's take the podiatrist example again. You go to a podiatrist and they notice, man, you got some ulcers on your feet, and hey, maybe you should talk to an endocrinologist. So, in other words, they're able to at least interpret, or you go to an ophthalmologist and they say, I see some diabetic retinopathy in your eyes.
Right.
Um,
That points to
I
another
suggest,
specialty.
yes, I suggest that you talk to an endocrinologist.
Yes.
And they're not going to, they're not going to do the job of an endocrinologist. They're going to recommend that you go see an endocrinologist or something like that. That's professionally appropriate.
Because they have a clearly defined goal, I guess. Is
Right.
what
And
you'd
it's
say.
not, it's your health,
Right.
but their focus, their specialty is on eyes. It's not on,
Yes.
your whole, diabetic situation or whatever it happens to be. So,
Yep. So is Marcelo concerned that he sees a bunch of podiatrists doing brain surgery?
Is it?
I don't know. That's a real question. I don't know.
Or is it that could it be that he sees that? Could it be that he's really a generalist and he's offended by the people who are playing at being generalists when from a area of specialization? Maybe. I don't know. See, that's the thing. I don't know what he's really trying to get to.
We're speculating. We should ask him. I mean, we should privately have a conversation with him and say, look, you got to be on. This is off the record. We're not even recording this. We need to understand what the heck your objective is here and what's driving this.
So we could do it privately. It might be good content to do it publicly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It might be a good way to set up the conversation, I guess is what I'm saying.
It might be because then what we're doing is we're throwing
I see where you're going. Okay.
We're putting a little of the flames out, trying to get to a point where we're going to try and have a productive conversation out of this.
Yeah, it might be important helpful to just sort of like understand what is the context of this, what's the purpose of it, what is the resolution we're looking for. Maybe the best way to show that is to just do it in real time. I don't know.
Yeah.
No,
I mean, when he
that.
talked to me, he goes, I remember when I talked to you guys about this subject, you challenged me and we still had a productive conversation without anyone getting angry. So I thought of you.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
So maybe it's one episode with him just to clarify, because everything takes a while, and then
maybe him and we.
Maybe. Yeah,
Maybe.
I'm thinking like one to sort of clarify that stuff, and then another larger group discussion to sort of wrestle now that we've got an actual place to wrestle.
I like that. I think that's, in retrospect, I think that can help him provide clarity behind this whole inflammatory hashtag that he's got out there.
Yeah.
So that everybody can understand better. So what is it that you mean by this and why are you saying this? So yeah, I like that.
Yeah, when I hear there's no such thing as an agile coach, my first reaction is there isn't.
Yeah,
But if
what the hell have I
clients-
been
Exactly.
doing?
Yeah. Well, number one,
And
and number two, I know there's people who need this help, right? But then I think, oh, he's trying to trigger that reaction so that he can shed light, right? But it's the third part that's not happened yet.
Yeah. Well, I think the last time we were talking to him, he kind of went, I'm like, okay, Marcelo, is there a point to this?
Well, but I thought we got the point was like,
Yeah.
you have to be on the hook for some sort of measurable delivery.
Well,
It's like,
yeah, he was
And I thought
trying
we
to,
got to clarity
beat
on
the
that.
fiduciary responsibility drum. And then he specifically said something like, you can't go saying you're a therapist. Well,
Done.
in all three of those
Done.
conversations, there was not one coach who ever said, I'm a therapist. They said, I will find myself in conversations with people that may start feeling that way.
Right.
And that's when I am supposed to push them toward the specialist that can help them.
Unless I'm trained in whatever certified in coactive at Apple.
Yay!
Unless I have that skill set specialty, right, where I know how to do what they call professional coaching, right, and I can provide it myself. It's the same situation
even a
as a
professional coach will
podiatrist.
not claim to be a therapist.
That's right.
I guess
they
what I'm
will
saying
not.
is this rhymes to me where the situation where the podiatrist is seeing a heart related thing potentially, like they would send them to somebody
Exactly.
else.
Yeah. You send them to this heart to like, dude, you're having a heart attack.
Right.
I know your feet are weird, but
I can totally optimize your feet, but let me promise you it's not.
But it's not going to help because tomorrow you're going to be dead.
Yes.
So
what is the goal here? Keep you alive.
you're going to have the best working feet in the
in the morgue.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I did my leadership training class this week, by the way.
How'd that go?
And
Well, I think it went
yeah.
awesome, but
Did you find any leaders?
yes, I did find some leaders in that group. People who had seen things before, people who were like, "Oh, thank God, someone's having this conversation finally." But I did that Joyner and Joseph leadership agility exercise in there. And,
Oh, the one you showed us before. Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I showed them. I had simplified some of the stuff, but basically, it was the exercise I did. Is there were 3 work groups, so I picked 3 of the levels. So the expert, the achiever, and the catalyst, because that's 85% of the people in the world is covered with that spread. And I left out co-creator and synergist. Like, it wouldn't have been helpful to have, you guys get to be catalysts, you get to be co-creators, and you get to be synergists, covering 10% of the people in the world. That's not going to be really helpful.
And you were pretty confident you didn't have a synergist in the room who would be orphaned?
It didn't matter. I didn't say go sit at the table with the other experts. Did not do that. I said, okay, now that I've introduced the roles, think to yourself what you are. I don't care, right? But know this: if you think you're an expert, you are in good company. 45% of the leaders in corporate America are also experts. If you think you're an achiever, 35%. And then I said, are any of you nervous yet? I said, because you know how many people are catalysts? And they went, what? I said, 5.
5 or 5%.
5%. 5%.
45% of the leaders are experts.
Are experts.
That
Yes.
rhymes with the technical maestro, is what Mick Kirsten taught them.
Okay.
When I made your counterpoint, like that's what Stanley McKistro was, an expert. I can tell you exactly where to count the things. Anyway, just to tie that up.
Yeah, and that's fine. But the problem, and so what we did is now that we've done that, the exercise I gave them, you are in a group. Answer 2 questions, 2 3-part questions. The first question is, assuming
So 6
that
questions.
you are a leader who operates in this mode. You are an expert. You are an achiever. You guys are catalysts. How does it affect the people who report to you if you are a supporter of an agile transformation, neutral toward the agile transformation, or a detractor of the agile transformation? And so answer that question first. And then the second question was, now, assuming you report to someone who's in that mode, how likely are you to influence them if you are a supporter, detractor, or neutral? And it was like, well, if an expert is a supporter, then he'll tell everyone exactly how to do the thing he supports. And if an expert is a detractor, he will poison the minds of everybody beneath him.
Yeah.
And it was with his expertise. Like, they try to do a different thing, they get corrected to go back to doing it their way.
Right.
So that was experts. That was easy. Achiever, well, the achiever's delegating, and they're trying to, they still want to see things done their way, but maybe they give a little leeway. But the catalyst is, I'm setting the vision. I'm going to try and inspire you to do stuff. Right. So if they're a supporter of it, and so the idea was, I kind of wanted to build an influence map that went from, even if you're highest level of the organization, the person says, we're going to do this Agile thing, and I'm a strong supporter. And at the lowest level, you're teaching your teams, and the teams are getting value in it, so they're supporters. Everyone in between, you can look how the big green message from the top gets diluted the farther down it goes if they have a bunch of neutral people. If it doesn't just pass through, it gets diluted as it goes. If it's negative, it actually gets stopped and it gets replaced. So, and then if you're trying to go from the grassroots and you're going up, your ability to influence your leader gets better as they become more
the
mature
signal gets
in their way of doing
amplified or
things.
attenuated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you're trying to change the mind of an expert to enlist them in your enthusiasm, and it goes against their thought, it's just not going to work. They're not going to take, you might manage to whittle away at their position over time.
Your only hope would be to present such a detailed, compelling case that they question their own expertise.
Yeah.
Yeah. And which just seems hard, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Damn near impossible.
Damn near impossible.
Well, yeah. Well, the point of what I was, the point of what we were trying to do here is, I said, so here's the thing, even if you guys are part of a project structure, right, going all the way up from a product champion to product managers to product owners to the teams down to the front lines, you can make that as perfect an information flow as you want. Everybody's out on board with what you're doing. You can't lose sight of the fact that all of the individual players report through a different structure in the matrix to other leaders. And if those other leaders, who are responsible for whether they get bonuses, whether they get promotions, are not on board with this way of working, they are going to subvert the success of your program.
I can hear Steve Tendon talking about the unity of purpose model.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, I got that. So that was good. We did run out of time because they were asking a ton of questions, and
well, that's good.
Yeah, that's
good.
They were super engaged, and they were involved in when we did the manifesto, they were like all over that, and they were not just going, this is stupid and would never work. It was like, okay, I can see where this could be a problem if you've got, someone who's in, and they named some ITIL. They said ITIL people would hate this because ITIL is all about process and all this stuff. It's everything on the right is ITIL. I said, well, keep in mind, we're not saying don't do those things. We're saying don't lose sight of those things. In fact, give more sight to those things. You still have to do those. Those are the business side.
But those things are not the goal. Would that be another way to say it? The goal is not to have, you need technical excellence, but technical excellence is not the goal. The goal is the agility that the technical excellence
Well,
enables.
Yeah, be careful when you say the goal now, because now we have to say that the goal is to make money. That's the goal, because Goldratt said that's the goal. But, and then that gets married with Simon Sinek going, well, your why is your purpose, your cause, your belief. It's not to make a profit. That's not the purpose, right? So your goal and your purpose are different. Your goal, we need to make money, absolutely, but our purpose is to, in the process of making money, we're going to do some good. We're going to do something. We're going to achieve higher purpose.
This is why I love this job, because all of those are correct. It just depends on how you frame them and who you're talking to and what slice of the analysis you're looking at, right?
Yeah, I know. And so I had to marry the two concepts. Because I was reading the goal, I'm going, this goes against everything I've been telling people. And I went, well, wait a minute, but this is a highly respected view, so I can't just dismiss it. How do I put them together?
Mm-hmm.
So
you need the God's eye view.
Yeah.
And they are not oil and water, you know.
No.
The interesting thing is, I guess, and I have a particular opinion, if the goal is to make money, and I see this with, you know, especially with startups, if your goal is, I want to make a lot of money with whatever product or service or whatever, you're not going to get there. It's not going to happen. You are not going to achieve what your stated goal is. And the reason is because you're so focused on the money that you're ignoring the way you make the money is to provide something of value to the customer. So if you focus on the customer, what their needs are, what their wants are, their desires, and fulfill that, focus on that, the money will come. But nobody, you know, we live in a society where, God, we want it and we want it now, damn it. And so we want to make that money quickly instead of investing time and effort, understanding what is the customer need? What are their pains? What is it they really want? What will help their lives be better? And if you present that and really dig into that, it takes time to do that.
Yeah.
But if you do that and you make that investment, the money will come.
Right.
But the error there is applying the wrong question at the level of analysis. I mean, so the goal of making money might be necessary, but it's not, if you've got a product company, it's not a substitute for saying, here's our mission, here's our vision, here's the reason the company exists. One of the things that you need to do if you want to create a new medical device and help people manage their diabetes is, like, one of the things you need to do as a for-profit institution is to make money. So that's the goal.
You can continue to be there.
So you can continue to serve the higher mission, but you have to, at some level, there has to be the goal of making money at the sort of operation. So all your works and the nuts and bolts are in place, but saying the goal is to make money for the whole org is like, does you see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there was an organization, a smaller size consulting company. I don't know if they exist anymore. And I asked them early on, what's your objective? And they told me on multiple occasions, our objective is to become $1 billion consulting company. And I thought, that is the dumbest I have ever heard.
We already have many billion-dollar consulting companies.
Yeah.
Where is the value about, you know?
Yeah.
So
we're providing the customers.
Do anything to make money is basically what you're
saying. That was my first thought. All the unethical shit's on the table.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, wait,
we can do anything.
All my decisions are based on which option gets more money.
Exactly.
So this is the podiatrist saying
toward my goal.
Half off on brain surgeries, right?
Well, I'm going to make it up in volume.
Totally. Yeah. As a foot doctor, I'll take care of all of your stuff.
I can do it quicker than your average brain surgeon.
Yes.
You know how I do that? I don't do any of that suturing stuff. That takes too long. I just slap the cap back on and just staple it down.
I got a propane torch here that does it a lot faster.
I actually did my internship as a plumber, so I just put a little flux in there and just.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah, if you don't have a higher purpose to measure all of your other stuff, the other stuff exists to serve the purpose. Mm-hmm. And if you don't get that stuff, if you're not asking the right question in the right area, there's no hope of understanding what the effective thing to
So
do is.
Sinek would say people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And then so a lot of people do what you do. How do they choose which one they want to get? What is it about your product that resonates with people? That's the differentiator. So people will go to you. So now you can sell your product. You're attracting people. Now you can make profit. Now you can make money. Right? So you'll achieve your goal by attracting the customers with the mission.
Right. As long as the goal of making money is subordinate to the mission.
Right.
And-
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And you can only have one primary objective. And I've had this conversation with a few people that, well, our objective is to produce this and to make a lot of money. It's like, no. There's only one primary objective.
Because you're going to have a situation where you can make money by not exactly doing what's in the purpose, right?
If you solve a problem.
Yeah.
Solve the problem.
Right.
And I would suggest also, Matt, you said earlier, any for-profit. I think it doesn't apply. It doesn't matter whether it's a for-profit or a non-for-profit. And we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Are you providing value? End of the day, full stop. Are you providing value? If you're not providing value, you're not going to survive anyway, or you shouldn't survive.
Right. Because no one will do your stuff. We'll get your stuff.
Right.
Use your stuff.
That's
whatever
an
your stuff
interesting
is.
distinction. I guess we don't have time to get into that today, but that's you're right. Just in the level of practicability, if the organization doesn't serve any purpose anywhere, it shouldn't exist. But in some cases, people keep the excess, and in other times, people choose not to keep the excess. That's feels like a separate topic.
Yeah.
Delve into that.
I worked for a company once that was a sole proprietorship, and they actually said our company goal was to make money for the shareholder.
So you could be in landscaping, you could be in anything.
And that was So it's like, well, that's great.
Yeah. Godspeed.
How do we sell our product with that one? Just like, hey, buy our product. It makes money for our shareholder.
And yeah, exactly. What's the value proposition? Would you like to make me rich? I gotta go. This has been awesome.
I think yes. So somewhere in here, there's been an Agile thing.
Probably. I've probably been Matt Bean.
I've definitely been Mike Markey.
I'm thinking about being Jeff Singleton.
We'll work that out, and we'll see you next time.
All right. See you guys.
Bye.